Hi, I'm Chris from Ventures Truck Parts and Equipment. We're a Dana Spicer distributor. We've been selling Dana Spicer parts for over 15 years. I get a lot of calls on questions about axles, especially the Dana 60 axle and the Dana 50 axle out of the Ford Super Duties. We sell a lot of parts for these axles, so we're going to talk a little bit about the axle, how to take it apart, how to troubleshoot the problems with it, the items that are wear items that need to be replaced. This axle is actually fairly simple. There's not a lot of tools required to take it apart. We've got a tray here with or a table with some tools on it, the basic ones you'll need. For convenience sake, we've got this axle actually on the sawhorses upside down because of the spring perch here. Resting on the sawhorse is stable for us, so that's why we place it that way. So we're going to go ahead and take the locking hub out at this time. It's a fairly simple process. You have to just compress the lock ring and then slide the locking hub out. Once you get the snap ring off like that, you just have to squeeze it together like Ammon did. Then it's just a matter of tapping it out. And that's the Ford automatic and manual locking hub. The next thing that usually works really well is to take the tie rod off. That allows you to be able to move the knuckle to access the nuts on the back of the studs to remove the wheel hub. Alright, so we found the best tool to take a cotter pin out is a pair of dikes. And you can see Ammon doing that now. Just squeeze it together and then pull it out. Okay, so now he's got the cotter pin out. He's going to go ahead and take the nut off. Like I said before, you can use a metric 21 socket, or if you don't have that, a 13/16 socket will work. Okay, a trick that I learned a long time ago in getting a tie rod out. A lot of people try to use a pickle fork and they'll mess up the seal here, and it's a lot of fuss. But if you'll ping the knuckle itself, it'll knock everything loose and the tie rod will fall right out. So Ammon's going to hit that. Now you can see just by hitting that, sometimes it takes a few more hits. It depends on how corroded and everything is, but it usually will just fall out if you ping the knuckle and then the tie rod falls right out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the caliper off. Now, there's actually two different bolts here. If you're just going to change your pads and take the caliper off, you could take this bolt off and this other bolt here. But to take the whole bracket off, you need to take the whole bracket off in order to get the rotor off and pull the hub off. So we're going to actually pull the bracket off by removing this bolt and this bolt here. And those are also the same size as the tie rod, a 21 millimeter or a 13/16 socket will take those off. So Ammon's going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and pull the rotor off. It's almost fallen off anyway. Go ahead and take that off, Ammon. Now you can see that this is the hub bearing assembly, and in order to get that off, we first have to get the snap ring off that's inside the hub, and then there are 4 bolts that hold the hub onto the knuckle, and we'll take those off. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the snap ring out. You need a pair of snap ring pliers to do this. These are a Craftsman snap ring plier. Any snap ring plier will work as long as you have the little nipples on the end to get into the snap ring to spread it out and open it up. The snap ring pliers are reversible. You need the kind that are going to spread out. This one you can actually turn around so that it will suck it together, but we want it to spread out for this application. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and remove the nuts on the back side of the studs that hold the hub assembly in place. So there's 4 of those. They're also a 21 millimeter or a 13/16. Okay, so you can see I'm getting the socket and putting it on the nut to remove the nut off the stud. So with the tie rod off, it makes it easier to access both sides. So we're getting the opposite side now. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and take the ABS line off. You don't want to forget this, because as you're pulling the hub off, it's going to hang up on there and you might hurt it. So in the vehicle, it's going to be opposite of what we've got. So on the bottom now is the ABS ring for us, but on your vehicle it'll be on top. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the bolt off to pull the ABS line out. It's an 8 millimeter head on the bolt, and Ammon's going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, with the nuts off the studs, we're ready to pull the hub out. Now, as we start to pull that hub off, there's a set of thrust washers inside the hub. They'll kind of fall out as you pull that out. We sell those if you happen to have your axles, you pull that apart and find out they're bad. We do sell those. They're not very expensive. They're about $15 for the packet. So Ammon's going to go ahead and pull that off now. Okay, so this is the thrust washer kit. It consists of 3 pieces. You have a metal ring, the actual thrust washer itself, which is made out of like a plastic composite, and then another metal ring. And this is usually the wear item that you want to inspect and make sure is still good. This is in actually really good condition, so you wouldn't need to replace this set. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the wheel hub assembly. The first thing we can see right here is the second thrust washer. This is the thrust washer between the outer axle shaft and the back side of the wheel hub. That protects it so you don't have metal on metal. This one actually is also in very good condition. There's no reason to replace one in this condition. So we'll just set that down out of the way. The next thing we really want to inspect, talking about the locking hubs, is this O-ring right here, which is kind of hard to see. Let me pull this out of the way. Maybe you can see it there now, but it's a yellow O-ring that goes all the way around the hub. If this is cracked or split or has any nicks in it, you'll lose vacuum right there and your locking hub won't work. We sell new ones from Dana Spicer, and they're only about $3. They're not that expensive. I would recommend, if you're not replacing the whole hub assembly with a new O-ring in it, that you at least replace the O-ring in your old wheel hub assembly. Okay, while you've got the hub out, it's really good to inspect everything. One of the things that I probably sell the most of in our business is this small little bearing in here will fail, and it'll destroy the outer axle shaft. And So it's really important that you inspect this and make sure it is in good condition. This one is. When you reassemble it, I would put extra grease on this bearing to make sure that it stays lubricated. Okay, so this is a new outer axle shaft, or they call it a stub shaft or spindle shaft, for the Ford Super Duties from '99 to '04, and on the excursions from 2000 to '05. But this is the surface that bearing that we just talked about rides on right here. And if the bearing fails, it'll chew up this surface and make it so that it won't ride smoothly. Okay, we're going to go ahead and slide that axle shaft out. Sometimes they're a little hard to get out, but if you can get in there with a bar and pry on the inner axle shaft, it makes it a lot easier to slide that out. Okay, now that we have the axle shaft assembly out, you can kind of inspect everything. You can see the bearing surface on the shaft. This one's in good condition, so you wouldn't have to worry about this replacing that. Now let's talk about the inner knuckle seal or the vacuum seal. This is a special seal that rides on itself, and it does a few different things. One, it keeps dirt and moisture out of the bearings on the wheel hub, but it also creates the vacuum inside the knuckle. So it's kind of a critical seal. And normally when your automatic locking hubs are not working, it's because this seal is bad. This one actually appears to be in fairly good condition, but I would replace it even though it may still be okay. While you've got this apart, it's a lot easier to replace it. Here's what a new one looks like. This is from Dana Spicer. As you can see, there's some grease inside around here, and that's what how the seal works and turns on that surface inside there. Okay, while you've got this axle shaft out, it's good to inspect the dust seal, which is right here. This one is better than most I've seen, but it should be replaced. This is not a real expensive seal. We sell them for $13 a piece. They do function. They keep big debris and stuff from getting in the axle housing, but it's not a tight sealed fit. It just kind of covers up the end of the housing. This is what a new one looks like. You can see it's a little thicker and bigger than the other one because this one's worn out. Okay, this seal is really easy to replace. You just take a hammer and tap the old one off, and then slide the new one on and just tap it back up on. There's a surface on the shaft where it sits, a machine surface, and you just need to tap it on and it'll stay there. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the inner knuckle or the vacuum seal off. Just for convenience, we've taken it apart to put it in the vise. You could still put the whole axle shaft assembly in here to do it without taking it apart. But if you just take and hit it around the seal with a hammer, it usually comes off fairly easy. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. We've gone over the basics on disassembling the Dana 60 or Dana 50 front to the point of pulling the axle shaft out. One note, I've had a lot of people ask me if you need to take C-clips off to take the axle shaft out. As you've seen in the video, there are no C-clips. You don't have to pull the cover and take a C-clip off to pull the axle shaft out. We're going to make some other videos to show you how to remove the inner tube seals and the carrier to access those tube seals and replace them, as well as removing the knuckle and replacing the ball joints. So if you need anything as far as parts for your Dana 60 front, please visit our website at venturestruckparts.com.